I really cannot find enough words to express how happy we are in the group who is dealing with the association agreement with Europe. We welcome all the Egyptian party who beneficial of this agreement. We welcome our dear friend James Mouran, ambassador of EU to Egypt. And I want to ask your permission to make a small change, that we want to get rid of James Mouran as soon as possible, because we are sending him in another mission. One good example of the very good relations between EU and Egypt, that James Mouran has no time to stay with us. He is going to fight another political battle now, immediately. So we shall start by asking Ambassador James Mouran to start, and then we shall release him to fight our political battle afterwards. In few words, I cannot find exact words to say how is Egypt and EU in a very good relation, except that I say it looks like a marriage. In the European sense, not in the Oriental sense. So, Ambassador Mouran, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Gamal, dear Ambassador. Minister, very good to see you here. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to celebrate something very positive, and that is the 10th birthday of the EU-Egypt Association Agreement. Normally when a child turns 10, it's on the verge of adulthood, maturity, and so on. But I'm happy to say that our association agreement is an early developer. It's already gone through its teens, and it's now well into its 20s, and I think it's operating extremely well, and it's also pointing the way for greater things to come in future. And we'll talk about some of these things in the speeches to follow. But let me just thank Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi and his team, especially today, for organizing this event. And also to, again, give special thanks to Minister Al-Arabi for joining us today. Let me just highlight some of the achievements to which I've just referred. First and foremost, perhaps, the trade provisions of the association agreement have had a tremendous impact on our bilateral trade, EU-Egypt. You know that the European Union is the #1 trading partner with Egypt. It always has been. I dare say it always will be, even as trade diversifies around the world. Why? Because we are complementary and because we are neighbors, and we have strong common commercial and other interests that we follow. Thanks to the gradual elimination of industrial tariffs since 2004 and the agreement on agriculture, which we struck in 2010, trade in merchandise goods has more than doubled over the last decade. And more importantly, the nature of the trade has become more balanced. We started out with a massive trade deficit for Egypt. Egypt still has a trade deficit with Europe, but proportional to the total flow of trade, it has fallen, and the trend is for it to keep on falling, which is good. Nobody has an interest in major surpluses or major deficits. The best kind of trade is balanced trade, growing trade, two-way trade between us. And the association agreement and its provisions underlie all of that. But more can be done, and perhaps we can double trade again over the coming years. Of course, for this we will need continuity on both sides. Here in Egypt, of course, you're going through the roadmap. When you're through with it, with any luck, the country will emerge with more continuity in governance, because negotiating trade agreements like these takes time, takes effort, and is not done in a matter of months. It takes usually a couple of years to do it. Anyway, for us to build on the performance of the association agreement, a few things are necessary. It's important, of course, that the provisions are respected in full by both parties. And we need also the trade subcommittee meetings to provide the framework to handle the complexities of the trade issues that we have at stake. For the time being, those meetings have not been as regular as we would like, but this is nobody's fault. It's just the way things have been in Egypt in the last couple of years with the transition going on. Also, I think we can say that we would want to use the good things, the good experience of the association agreement in taking forward talks in the future on the deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, which has been on the table for the last year or two, and where we've had a number of exchanges with the government. A further exchange on that will take place very soon, in the next couple of weeks or so. We're not at the point of launching negotiations or talks just yet. Both sides, I think, still have some homework to do. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that perhaps towards the end of this year, we'll start talking Turkey on that very important initiative. But first, of course, we have to get through the current stage of the roadmap. The trade provisions of the association agreement have also been a big inspiration for cooperation between Egypt and the European Union under the SUP program. Many of you are here today who are working on that. In the past years, we have committed a sizable envelope of funding, well over €6 million, to trade-related assistance projects under the SAAP, the SUP, and these have served to support legal reforms and capacity development within the administration here, especially in the field of national quality infrastructure. Beneficiaries of EU funding and twinning expertise include, and the list is not exhaustive, but just to mention some, they include the Egyptian Accreditation Council, the Consumer Protection Agency, the National Institute for Standards and Meteorology, as well as the Egyptian Organization for Standardization, all of which have had very important roles to play when it comes to trade. But also they've had important roles to play when it comes to improving the quality of life for Egyptians. If we just take consumer protection, where a great deal of work has been going on, quietly and calmly, but effectively in the background. The standards of consumer protection in the country are on the rise. We know there are huge challenges, and we know also that the expectations of consumers in Egypt have gone up leaps and bounds in recent years. But very good work has been done there, and people are to be congratulated who have been doing it. Just one example, there are many others. Since, as I mentioned, the DCFTA, and I hope there we can get to grips with things like non-tariff barriers. The association agreement was all about bringing down tariffs, getting rid of the classical constraints on trade. But you know, there are many, many problems when it comes to quality standards, when it comes to customs, when it comes to a whole lot of other things facilitating trade, where we believe that closer cooperation between us can do more. During the past 10 years, the Program Administration Office of the SUP has implemented not only twinning projects, but also technical assistance operations for our partnership. And for that, the total amount allocated has come to €72 million, a great deal of activity there. Let me come back briefly to the definition of institutional twinning. It might sound a bit technical, but I believe it's important to remind everyone of what twinning can do and what it can't do. It's an institution-building instrument developed by the EU based on partnership between public administrations of EU member states and a beneficiary country. And the programs are built jointly around jointly agreed policy objectives deriving from our joint agenda and combining EU policy orientations and Egyptian administration efforts for reform where these two things meet. They don't always meet, but they do in many areas. And twinning is done by civil servants and experts from the respective administrations. Best practice, of course, being transferred to Egyptian administration being the number one consideration. Taking into consideration the very difficult context that we've had over the last year, I just want to mention at this event that I believe that our joint efforts have had projects. Our joint efforts to have projects back on track are now yielding results. I also already mentioned the Consumer Protection Agency. In 2013, we managed to initiate at least 4 twinning contracts. Railway safety, where the challenge we all know is massive here in Egypt, huge things to do. Much of it, of course, having to do with the infrastructure and its quality, but also to do with the systems in managing the railway system. But we've been working hard on that, and there's much more to do, we know it. Support to the electricity regulator, support to the Egyptian General Accreditation Council, the National Institute for Standardization I already mentioned. And there's an important technical assistance to support the Ministry of International Cooperation coming on now, and I think the kick-off event is this afternoon, if I'm not mistaken, and that's another new initiative. And last week a major step was taken as 2 new European Union consortia were selected, one to support the Egyptian Competition Authority, which is doing very good work trying to participate in the reform of the economy, and the other to help the Agricultural Research Center. And in a few days we'll select another agency from Europe to help the Ministry of Finance to reorganize the Egyptian Society for Accountants and Auditors in line with international best practice. And later this year we shall have at least 3 other support actions in the pipeline: a twinning for the Organization for Standards, one in the field of civil aviation, and technical assistance for metro safety. Now, you know, when you look at the breadth of activity here, I think you can see all of this backed up by the association agreement. I think you can see that there's an awful lot of people in this country and in Europe working very hard to improve the quality of life of the people of this country in many, many areas. It's not necessarily in the press, it's not something that you hear on the talk shows, it's not something that is terribly sexy, but by God it's important. If you're talking about people and you're talking about millions of people here expecting a better quality of life, all of these actions are contributing to that. And I think we have even more things in mind. For example, we are looking at the possibility of a twinning with the Ministry of the Antiquities to contribute to the very difficult and serious issue that you've had in this country since the revolution with the illegal export of antiquities out of your country. This is a terrible thing. And anything that can be done, whether it be bilaterally with the European member states and other people, other countries with which you have partnerships, or it be within the European Union dimension, where there are things we can do to supplement all of that, it should be done. This is something which I think we all feel very, very strongly about. The heritage of this country needs to stay in this country. It needs to be there for Egyptians and for the world to appreciate and enjoy and contribute also to the development of this country through tourism, which is under huge pressure at the moment. It's got enough problems without antiquities being taken out of the country. So the more that we can do on that score, frankly, the better. You know that more generally we are supporting, being helpful as best we can with the democratic transition that's underway in the country at the moment. And whilst you have many challenges, elections of course just around the corner, more elections to come later this year, whatever happens, I think you can be sure that the EU will be standing by your side, ready to as I said, be helpful, and also to continue to cooperate with you to make the association agreement even better. The preparation of a new action plan under the neighbourhood arrangement would also be a good opportunity to deepen our dialogue. Just let me finish by paying tribute to the team of 2 twinning projects which are currently ending. I mentioned one of them earlier, but let me repeat, we want to give our thanks to the team of the Consumer Protection Agency and to its RTA, Wolfgang Stark. Is Wolfgang here today? I hope so. If he isn't, I can't see where he is anyway. Thank you very much to you, and thank you very much to the Consumer Protection Agency and its leadership. Hand up there, everything they have done. And also to the team of the Egyptian Real Estate Taxation Agency and to its RTA, George Hartman. Is George Hartman here? And is the director of the project here? Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you for all you've done. I'm sure you've made a tremendous contribution. Let me finish with this once again to thank the Minister, and let's work hard to make it even better in the future. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
شكرا جيمس موران. Thank you.